Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. Max rubbed his hands together, the cold night air biting at his fingers as they walked through the dimly lit streets of the city. His best friends, Jenny and Leo, trudged along beside him, all three a little tipsy after a night of bar hopping. Jenny, always the level-headed one, was scrolling through her phone, half listening to Leo ramble about some new conspiracy theory involving lizard people and secret societies. All I'm saying is, if they can make robot dogs, who's to say they haven't already made robot presidents? It explains a lot, Leo said, waving his arms for emphasis, almost knocking over a trash can as they turned a corner. Sure, Leo, and I bet they're all hanging out in Area 51 sipping martinis, plotting world domination, Jenny said, her voice dripping with sarcasm as she absent-mindedly swiped at her phone. Max chuckled. You two are hopeless. The conversation lulled for a moment as they turned into a dark alley. A strange glow caught Max's eye. Hey, guys, check this out, he said, pointing to a flickering neon sign that seemed to float in midair. It was written in a language that didn't look like anything Max had ever seen before, an intricate swirl of symbols and letters that shifted and shimmered, almost as if alive. What the hell? Jenny muttered, stopping in her tracks. Leo squinted at the sign, his tipsiness doing nothing to improve his already poor vision. What's it say? Max shrugged. No idea. But it's definitely alien. Let me try my translator app, Jenny said, pulling out her phone. After a few seconds of scanning, the phone beeped and the sign flickered. The letters shifted, and a new message blinked into existence. Gourmet delight, open to all. Well, that cleared things up, Max said with a grin. Should we go in? Leo asked, his curiosity clearly outweighing his common sense. Why not? Max shrugged. We've come this far. Jenny sighed, but there was a hint of a smile on her face. All right, but if we end up on some alien cooking show, I'm blaming you both. The three of them approached the door, which slid open with a soft hiss. The moment they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them, sealing with an audible click. They all exchanged glances. Guys? Leo said, his voice suddenly much quieter. What did we just walk into? The interior was nothing like they had expected. It was sleek, modern, and yet otherworldly. Tables floated a few inches off the ground, while the walls shimmered with a metallic sheen, reflecting colors they couldn't quite name. Diners, none of them human, were scattered around the restaurant, their bizarre forms and eating habits making the trio's head spin. Some had tentacles, others had far too many eyes, and one creature appeared to be eating through a hole in the middle of its chest. Well, this is different, Jenny said, her voice wavering slightly as she scanned the room. Before they could fully process their surroundings, a maitre d' approached them, or rather, slithered. The creature was tall, with slimy tentacles for arms and far too many eyes dotting its elongated head. It wore what appeared to be a tuxedo, though the fabric shimmered like liquid metal. Welcome to Gourmet Delight, the maitre d' said in a raspy, but surprisingly clear voice. I trust you have a reservation? Max blinked. No. The maitre d' let out a sound that could have been a sigh, or a growl. No matter. We have a table for walk-ins. It gestured with a tentacle toward a floating table in the far corner. Right this way. The trio exchanged uneasy glances but followed. The table was circular, with a translucent top that pulsed softly with light. Once seated, menus appeared out of thin air, landing gently in front of them. Leo picked his up, his eyebrows knitting together as he stared at the symbols. I don't recognize any of this. Jenny pulled out her phone again, using the translator app to scan the menu. The app sputtered and struggled before finally offering a few disjointed translations. Max squinted at his own menu. Okay, what's this? Wriggling worm souffle? That doesn't sound like a good idea. Jenny's eyes widened. I'm seeing something called exploding snot soup. Leo stifled a laugh. I'll pass on that one. Max glanced around the restaurant. Aliens of all shapes and sizes were enjoying their meals with varying degrees of enthusiasm. One table over, a creature with multiple mouths was devouring a dish that glowed an ominous green. Another alien used what looked like a flamethrower to cook its food right at the table. I think we've got a problem, Max said, leaning in. This stuff might be fine for aliens, but it could be poison for us. No kidding, Jenny whispered back. We need to figure out what's safe to eat. If we pick the wrong thing, Max nodded. All right, we've got to think this through. Maybe there's something that's, like, universal. Something basic, like salad or bread. Jenny flipped through the menu again, frowning at the garbled translations. There's something here that translates to grain salad. That sounds safe-ish. Leo raised an eyebrow. I don't trust anything here, but it's better than brain freeze delight. They all nodded in agreement, and when the maitre d', or whatever it was, returned, Max cleared his throat. We'll have the, grain salad, please. The creature gave a slight bow before slithering away. Let's hope that doesn't kill us, Jenny muttered, folding her menu. They waited in tense silence as their order was prepared. After a few minutes, a different alien waiter appeared, this one reptilian with dark, leathery skin. It placed 3 bowls of a slimy, gray substance in front of them. Leo poked at the bowl with a fork, grimacing. This is a salad? Only one way to find out, Max said, cautiously taking a bite. The texture was somewhere between oatmeal and gelatin, but it didn't taste horrible. Okay, not bad. Weird, but not bad. Jenny took a bite and made a face. I think I'll stick to salads on Earth from now on. Just as they started to relax, the waiter returned, carrying a massive, pulsating dish. It was some sort of alien creature, still very much alive, and its beady eyes were locked onto them as it writhed on the plate. Compliments of the chef, the waiter said, its voice gravelly and sharp. Max's stomach dropped. We didn't order this. Ah, but the chef insists, the waiter said with a toothy grin, setting the dish in front of them. Jenny looked like she was about to be sick. We can't eat that. Max quickly leaned in. Okay, we have to play this smart. If we refuse, we might offend the chef. We need a distraction. I've got an idea, Leo said, his eyes darting around the room. See that thing under the table? It looks like a pet or something. Maybe it'll eat this for us. Jenny glanced down and saw the small, furry creature sniffing around their feet. It's worth a shot. Max nodded. Okay, I'll distract the waiter. Jenny, you keep watch. Leo, feed the thing. As Max started complimenting the decor and asking the waiter increasingly ridiculous questions about the history of the restaurant, Leo slowly slid pieces of the writhing creature off the plate and down to the furry alien beneath the table. The creature gobbled up the offering without hesitation, its eyes glowing with satisfaction. The plan was working, until the waiter noticed. Is there a problem with the dish? It asked, its voice laced with suspicion. No, no. Max said quickly. We were just savoring it. Really top-notch stuff. The waiter narrowed its eyes but didn't push further, retreating back to the kitchen. "We can't keep this up," Jenny whispered, her face pale. "We need to get out of here." As if on cue, dessert arrived, a jiggling, vibrating mass labeled Cosmic Jelly Explosion. The dish wobbled dangerously, and the trio quickly realized it wasn't just a cute name. The thing was about to explode. "Leo, what do we do?" Max asked, panic creeping into his voice. Without a second thought, Leo grabbed the dish and hurled it across the room, where it landed on a table of rowdy aliens. The resulting explosion sent a cascade of jelly-like substance flying through the air, covering the diners in sticky goo. Chaos erupted. Aliens were shouting, flailing, and some even began throwing food. It was a full-blown food fight. "Now's our chance," Jenny yelled, grabbing Max and Leo by the arms. They sprinted toward the door, dodging flying tentacles and bowls of alien cuisine. As they made their escape, they burst out into the alley, gasping for breath. The neon sign flickered above them once again, this time reading, "Thank you for dining at Gourmet Delight. Please come again." Max looked at Jenny and Leo, their clothes stained with alien goo. "Let's never speak of this again." "Agreed," Jenny said, shaking her head. As they walked away, Jenny's phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced at it and froze, holding it out for the others to see. The message read, "Thank you for dining at Gourmet Delight. We hope to see you again soon." Max swallowed hard. "Next time, let's just stick to pizza." Leo nodded fervently. "Amen to that." With one last glance at the alley, they hurried away, eager to leave the night, and the alien restaurant, behind them. They walked quickly, the cool night air doing little to calm their racing hearts. Max couldn't help but glance back at the alley, half expecting the restaurant door to swing open again and pull them back into that bizarre, alien world. But it didn't. The neon sign flickered out of sight as they rounded a corner, leaving them in the familiar, comforting darkness of the city streets. Jenny's phone buzzed again, but she didn't look at it. She couldn't. The notification still loomed large in her mind. "We hope to see you again soon." What did that even mean? Were they somehow marked now? She shuddered at the thought, wrapping her arms around herself as they continued to walk. "Do you think they can track us?" Leo asked, his voice hushed, almost as if he was afraid the very question might summon the aliens back. Max frowned, considering the possibility. "I don't know, but I'm not taking any chances. We should split up, go back to our places, and just, I don't know, lay low for a while." "Yeah, but what if that doesn't work?" Jenny said, her tone laced with worry. "What if they can, teleport us back or something?" Leo glanced nervously around, the shadows suddenly seeming more sinister. "Teleport? Dude, I'm already freaked out enough." "Sorry," Jenny muttered. "It's just, tonight has been crazy, and I'm not sure what's real anymore." They walked in silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. The city, usually bustling with life even at this hour, felt eerily quiet. No cars drove by, no late-night pedestrians wandered the streets. It was as if the whole world had decided to take a collective pause, leaving them alone with their anxieties. Max finally spoke, breaking the tension. "Look, we just need to stay calm. We survived that place, right? We'll figure this out too. Let's get home, get some sleep, and meet up tomorrow to figure out what to do next." They agreed, albeit reluctantly, and soon parted ways, each heading in a different direction. Max kept his head down as he walked, his mind racing with what-ifs. What if the restaurant wasn't done with them? What if this was just the beginning of something much bigger, something they couldn't escape. He shook his head, trying to push the thoughts away. Worrying wouldn't help. He needed sleep. By the time he reached his apartment, the exhaustion had fully set in. He fumbled with his keys, finally managing to unlock the door and step inside. The familiar scent of his place, a mix of old wood and his favorite coffee blend, helped ground him, pulling him away from the nightmare of the evening. Max dropped his keys on the counter and headed straight for the bathroom. He needed a shower, something to wash away the lingering sense of unease that clung to him like a second skin. The water was hot, almost scalding, but he didn't care. He let it run over him, closing his eyes and willing the tension to melt away. But even with the comforting rush of water, his mind wouldn't settle. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the alien waiters, the bizarre dishes, the chaos of that final escape. It all felt too vivid, too surreal. He could still hear the sounds of that place, the clinking of alien utensils, the low hum of the floating tables, the murmur of voices speaking in a language he couldn't understand. Max finally stepped out of the shower, wrapping a towel around himself. He glanced at his phone on the bathroom counter, half expecting another notification, another reminder that they hadn't truly escaped. But the screen was dark, silent. He sighed in relief, if only for a moment. He dressed quickly and slid into bed, pulling the covers up to his chin. The bed felt too big, too empty. Normally, he loved the space, the way he could sprawl out and relax. But tonight, it felt like a chasm, like something was missing. Safety, maybe. Or perhaps just the knowledge that the world was still the same, still predictable. Max closed his eyes, willing himself to sleep. But every time he started to drift off, images of the restaurant flashed through his mind, jolting him awake. He tossed and turned, the sheets tangling around him as the night wore on. Somewhere around 3 a.m., exhaustion finally won out, and he fell into a restless sleep. His dreams were chaotic, disjointed. He was back in the restaurant, but this time, it wasn't just him, Jenny, and Leo. The place was filled with people he knew, friends, family, even his old high school teacher. They were all sitting at tables, eating the alien food, laughing and chatting as if nothing was wrong, but something was wrong. Max could feel it, a gnawing sense of dread deep in his gut. He tried to warn them, tried to tell them not to eat, but his voice wouldn't work. No matter how hard he tried to shout, no sound came out. And then the food started to change. The dishes on the tables writhed and pulsed, growing larger, more menacing. The diners didn't notice, didn't care. They kept eating, even as the food began to consume them. Max watched in horror as his mother, her face serene, reached out to take a bite of a dish that looked like a swirling mass of tentacles. The moment she touched it, the tentacles wrapped around her, pulling her in. She didn't scream, didn't struggle, just let it happen. He wanted to run, to help her, but his feet were rooted to the spot. The restaurant grew darker, the shadows creeping closer, engulfing everything. Max woke with a start, his heart pounding in his chest. He was drenched in sweat, his sheets twisted around him like a cocoon. It took him a moment to remember where he was, to shake off the lingering terror of the dream. He sat up, running a hand through his damp hair. The room was dark, save for the faint glow of his alarm clock. 4:30 a.m. He sighed, knowing he wouldn't be getting any more sleep tonight. The dream had felt so real, so vivid. He could still see the look on his mother's face, the calm acceptance as she was pulled into the alien dish. It left a sour taste in his mouth, a lingering fear that gnawed at him. Max got out of bed, needing to move, to do something. He paced the small living room of his apartment, his mind racing. What if the dream was a warning? What if the restaurant was still out there, still watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike again. He shook his head, trying to push the thoughts away. It was just a dream, he told himself. Just his mind playing tricks on him after a night of madness. But no matter how many times he repeated it, the fear wouldn't leave. As the first light of dawn began to creep through the blinds, Max made a decision. He needed to talk to Jenny and Leo. They needed to figure out what to do, how to protect themselves if this wasn't over. He grabbed his phone, sending a quick message to both of them, "Meet me at the diner around 9. We need to talk." It was a relief when both of them responded almost immediately, agreeing to meet. At least he wasn't alone in this. Whatever was happening, they would face it together. Max spent the next few hours trying to distract himself, but nothing seemed to work. He tried watching TV, reading, even cleaning, but his mind kept drifting back to the restaurant, to the dream. The sense of unease wouldn't leave him, clinging to him like a shadow. Finally, it was time to go. He grabbed his jacket and headed out, the cool morning air doing little to clear his mind. The streets were starting to wake up, the usual sounds of the city returning as people went about their day. It was almost comforting, the normalcy of it all, but it didn't quite reach the knot of anxiety in his chest. The diner was a small, old-fashioned place with checkered floors and red vinyl booths. It was one of their usual spots, a place they'd been coming to for years. Normally, it was a place of comfort, a place to unwind and chat over greasy food and bottomless coffee. But today, it felt different, like the shadows were just a little too deep, the corners a little too dark. Max spotted Jenny and Leo sitting in their usual booth at the back. They both looked as haggard as he felt, dark circles under their eyes and a tense, wary air about them. "Hey," he said as he slid into the booth, trying to keep his voice light. "Rough night?" "You could say that," Jenny muttered, stirring her coffee absently. "Couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes." "Same," Leo said, nodding grimly. "I kept dreaming about that place. It was like I was back there, but it was worse somehow. More real." Max's stomach tightened. "I had a dream like that too. My mom was there, and he trailed off, not wanting to relive it. Jenny looked up, her eyes wide. "Do you think it means something? Like, are they still watching us?" Leo shook his head, rubbing his face with his hands. "I don't know, man. I don't know what to think anymore." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the night pressing down on them. Finally, Max spoke up. "We need to figure out what to do. If this is real, if they can track us or pull us back, we need to be ready. How do we even prepare for something like that?" Jenny asked, her voice tinged with despair. "We don't even know what we're up against." Max bit his lip, thinking. "We could try to find out more about the restaurant. Maybe it's happened to other people. Maybe there's something online, some forum or message board where people talk about stuff like this." "It's worth a shot," Leo said, though he didn't sound hopeful. Jenny nodded slowly. "I can do some digging. See if there's anything out there that matches what we went through." "Good," Max said. "And in the meantime, we should stick together. I don't know if it'll help, but I don't want to be alone if they try something." They all agreed, the unease settling into a grim determination. They finished their coffee in silence, none of them having the appetite for food. As they left the diner, Max couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, lurking just out of sight. He glanced over his shoulder, half expecting to see the neon sign flickering in the distance, but there was nothing. Just the city, waking up and moving on with its day. But Max knew better. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. the three friends walked together for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. The city was coming to life around them, people going about their business, oblivious to the strange and terrifying world that had touched their lives. It was almost surreal, how normal everything seemed. "All right," Jenny said, breaking the silence. "I'll start looking into this. If I find anything, I'll let you guys know right away." "Same here," Leo added. "I'll see what I can dig up." Max nodded. "Stay safe, okay? And keep in touch." They all parted ways again, each heading back to their own homes, but the sense of isolation was stronger now. Max couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the restaurant was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike again. As he walked, his phone buzzed with a message from Jenny. "Found something. We'll share soon. Be careful." Max's heart skipped a beat. Maybe they were onto something. Maybe they could find a way to protect themselves, to stop whatever this was before it escalated further. He hurried home, his mind racing. Whatever Jenny had found, it could be the key to all of this. But as he reached his apartment door, the unease returned, stronger than ever. He unlocked the door and stepped inside, but something felt off. The air was thick, heavy, as if the very walls were closing in on him. He hesitated for a moment before flicking on the light. Nothing seemed out of place, but the feeling wouldn't go away. He closed the door behind him and locked it, double-checking the deadbolt. It didn't help. Max walked into the living room, his eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. His apartment was small, but it felt too big now, too empty. He grabbed his phone and sat down on the couch, waiting for Jenny to send whatever she had found. The minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an hour. Finally, his phone buzzed again, and he almost dropped it in his haste to read the message. "Got into some forums. Looks like we're not the only ones. There are others who've experienced the same thing. Similar stories, same restaurant. But no one knows what it is or how to stop it." Max's blood ran cold. So it was real. The restaurant wasn't just some bizarre, one-off experience. It was something bigger, something that had happened to others. His phone buzzed again. "Some say it's a trap, a way to lure people in and, well, you can guess the rest. But there's no pattern. No way to predict who it'll target next." Max felt a chill run down his spine. They were marked, just like the others. And there was no way to know when the restaurant would come for them again. "What do we do?" Max typed back, his fingers shaking. The reply came quickly. "I don't know. Just, be careful. Stay alert. And whatever you do, don't go back there." Max stared at the message, the weight of it pressing down on him. He didn't plan on going back, but the thought that the restaurant might find a way to bring them back against their will was terrifying. He couldn't just sit here and wait. He had to do something, anything, to protect himself and his friends. But what? How do you fight something like this, something that exists beyond the normal rules of reality? Max paced the room, his mind racing with possibilities, but none of them felt right. There had to be a way to stop this, to break free from the grip of that place. But how? His phone buzzed again, and he almost didn't want to look. But he forced himself to, steeling himself for whatever Jenny had found. "Leo's on his way to your place. I think it's safer if we stick together." Max let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. At least they wouldn't be facing this alone. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. The minutes dragged by as Max waited for Leo to arrive. The sense of dread grew stronger with each passing second, the silence of the apartment pressing in on him. Finally, there was a knock at the door, and Max rushed to open it, relief flooding through him as he saw Leo standing there. "Hey," Leo said, his voice strained. "Sorry I took so long. Had to grab a few things." Max nodded, stepping aside to let him in. "No worries. Glad you're here." Leo dropped his bag on the floor and sank into the couch, looking as tired as Max felt. "So, what do we do now?" Max sat down beside him, rubbing his temples. "I don't know, man. Jenny found some stuff online, but it's not good. Apparently, this has happened to other people too. No one knows how to stop it." Leo cursed under his breath. "Figures. Just our luck." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the situation hanging over them like a dark cloud. Finally, Max spoke up. "We can't just wait around for something to happen. We need a plan." "Like what?" Leo asked, his tone bordering on defeat. "What can we even do against something like this?" Max bit his lip, thinking. "I don't know yet. But there has to be something. Maybe we can find a way to close it off, to make sure it can't reach us." Leo looked at him, frowning. "You mean like a, what? A shield or something?" Max shrugged. "I don't know, maybe. I'm just thinking out loud here. But we can't just sit around and do nothing." Leo nodded slowly. "Yeah, you're right. We need to do something. Even if it's just to keep ourselves sane." They spent the next hour brainstorming, throwing out ideas and possibilities, no matter how far-fetched. But nothing seemed to stick. Everything felt too uncertain, too intangible to hold on to. Finally, they were interrupted by a knock at the door. Max's heart jumped into his throat, but it was just Jenny, looking just as exhausted and frazzled as the rest of them. "Hey," she said, stepping inside. "Any progress?" Max shook his head. "Not much. Just a lot of wild ideas that probably won't work." Jenny sighed, sinking into the chair across from them. "Same here. I've been reading through these forums, but it's all the same. People are scared, but no one knows what to do. A lot of them just disappeared after a while. Stopped posting. No one knows what happened to them." The room fell silent again, the gravity of the situation settling over them like a heavy blanket. They were in over their heads, facing something they couldn't even begin to understand. Max finally broke the silence. "So what do we do? Just wait?" Jenny shook her head. "I don't know. But I don't want to wait around for something to happen. We need to be proactive, find a way to protect ourselves." Leo nodded. "Agreed. But how? It's not like we can just, I don't know, call the Ghostbusters or something." Max chuckled despite himself. "Yeah, if only." They continued to talk, their conversation looping in circles as they tried to come up with a plan. But the more they talked, the more they realized how little they knew, how outmatched they were. Eventually, exhaustion began to take its toll. They agreed to stay at Max's place for the night, the thought of being alone too terrifying to consider. They set up a makeshift camp in the living room, using the couch, chairs, and floor as beds. As they settled in, Max couldn't help but feel a sense of dread creeping over him. This wasn't over. The restaurant was still out there, still waiting. And he had a feeling it wouldn't wait long before making its next move. He closed his eyes, trying to will himself to sleep, but it was a long time before it finally came. And when it did, his dreams were filled with the same twisted images as before: the restaurant, the aliens, the food that consumed instead of being consumed. When Max woke the next morning, the first thing he saw was the neon sign flashing in his mind, a silent reminder that their ordeal was far from over.